He was one of the fiercest opponents of America's drone policy in Pakistan. Now that Barack Obama has been elected for a second term, what does this mean for Pakistan, for India, and for the relationship with the United States? I'm joined by a man who hopes to rule Pakistan very soon, Mr. Imran Khan. Thank you very much, sir, for speaking to Headlines today. Barack Obama's re-election, are you seeing this as really bad news for Pakistan?
Well, if you look at the policies of Romney or Obama, as far as Pakistan was concerned, as far as the war on Afghanistan were concerned, there's no difference. So, if I had to choose, it would be Obama. Reason being that Obama is second term. He no longer is under pressure from the right wing, from the pro-war lobby. He is no longer worried about re-elections. So I think he will follow his instincts, which were always for peace. If you read this book, Obama's War, by John Woodward, Bob Woodward, Obama all the time wanted to get out of Afghanistan, wanting a political solution. He was not pro-war, but unfortunately, he got persuaded by the generals who kept scaring him that you'll be considered a man who lost the war. So therefore, he went along with this pro-war policy and patriots' surge, more drone attacks. But I think now there's a realization that the war is no solution.
But one of the very few facets during these elections on which there was unanimity between the Republicans and the Democrats was on their policy on Pakistan, and the sense that Pakistan was a failing state where things were going out of control, that Pakistan was playing a double game, and that the policy of drones needed to be reinforced, that there would be more drone attacks because both the parties believe that this is the only way to tackle high-value targets in Pakistan.
Firstly, I mean, one of the reasons why Pakistan is failing is because of this war on terror. It's caused chaos in Pakistan. It's increased extremism in Pakistan. There's more polarization in Pakistan today. There are more radicals. There's more anti-Americanism in Pakistan. So that has had a direct impact on the law and order situation. The police, which should be defending us, is actually defending itself from the militants, and especially in the KP and Balochistan areas. So, and secondly, of course, it was the American imposed Asif Zardari who came in through an American broker deal called the NRO. That's why he's the president. Otherwise, there were so many corruption cases against him. So these two reasons are the reasons why we are failing. Your answer that they are agreed on the fact that Pakistan is a failing state, and that the drone attacks is some sort of an answer. It is absolutely it's doing the opposite. Drone attacks, according to the Stanford University Law School's research, they've only taken out 2% out of the people killed. Only 2% are high-value targets. 98% are innocent civilians or low-level militants who don't matter, are quickly replaced. But the amount of anti-Americanism caused by the drone attacks actually goes and helps the militants. So it's a failed policy. It hasn't produced any results. They're not winning the war because of it.
But one of the reasons why Pakistan, sir, is seen by the international world as a failing state is because voices from Pakistan are not condemning actions or attacks on innocents within Pakistan. I want to take the case of what happened with young Malala. Now here's a case of a dastardly attack on a young girl who had the courage to speak out, and no one, not even yourself if I may permitted to say so, actually came out and condemned what the Taliban did.
This is just absolute fabrication. It's just pure lies. I mean, I went to see Malala 48 hours after she was shot. I did a press conference. I took the name of TTP and condemned them for that attack. Where has this come from? No one condemned it. Across the board, people in Pakistan condemned this Malala attack. In fact, never has the Taliban been condemned so much as because of Malala's attack. It was condemned. Everyone condemned it.
But not just internationally, the charge in Pakistan also is that Imran Khan does not take on the Taliban, that he's scared of the Taliban, that at some level he needs Taliban support to come to power in Pakistan.
This is another joke. And now, first of all, is Imran Khan supposed to pick up a gun and charge against the Taliban? What am I supposed to do? I mean,
but you can raise your voice against the actions.
I can, and as I said, Just look at the press conference. It's on CD, it was on television. I was the only leader who went to see Malala immediately and condemned the Taliban in a press conference. This idea that somehow condemning the Taliban, that Imran Khan condemns the Taliban so they'll stop attacking. I mean, are we trying to fool ourselves? There's a reason for this militancy. Unless you go to the root cause of this militancy, this is going to go on and on. In fact, it's getting worse. Condemnation is not going to finish this
How
militancy.
would you deal with the Taliban?
We have been condemning militancy and terrorist attacks for 8 years. You just have to go on a website. It's not going to solve any issues. Now, how do you win the war? And my party is the only party that has been giving a solution for 8 years. And for that reason, we've been called pro-Taliban. Because we do not think there is any military solution. So we have given an alternate solution. It does not mean we are pro-Taliban. It means we are the only party that understands the issue and has given a solution. So what is the solution? Number one, disengage from the US war. As long as we are fighting, it's perceived by people in the tribal areas we are fighting the American war, they have declared jihad on Pakistan security forces. As long as there's jihad, there will be people willing to blow themselves up, suicide bombers. There will be people always being, the militants will be able to recruit people to do these suicide attacks which cause the maximum
But the
damage.
Taliban has been there in
No,
Afghanistan and the border areas long before the Americans came in, sir.
this is not true. This is just a myth. There were no militant Taliban in Pakistan. So look, until 2000, in fact, the Taliban lost power in Afghanistan in 2001. We never heard of a name, the TTP, the Pakistani Taliban, till 2006. With 2004, we started the operations. 2 years of collateral damage created Pakistani Taliban. Had we not sent our army in, we might not have had any Taliban in Pakistan. But let me get what is the solution? Number one, disengage from the war so that narrative of jihad is taken away from the militants. Number two, mobilize the people of the tribal areas. The moment it is no longer jihad, the tribal people, they are about 900,000 to a million armed men in the tribal areas. There are only about 20,000 militants. Let them go and reclaim their land. The only reason they don't do it right now is they will not fight a mujahid. They're conservative people. So the narrative of jihad disappears, the tribal people will reclaim the land and they'll win the war. The Pakistan army is not going to win the war. The people in the tribal areas will win the war. And if then military is needed, number three, to help the tribal people to reclaim their land, that's the only time you use military. This is the 3-point agenda. And I challenge anyone that there is no other solution. My party is the only party that has been consistently saying this. No one has a solution apart from a military solution, which has failed. Not
No,
just
but
in
the
Pakistan,
Americans
in
going
Afghanistan.
away does not mean that the Taliban will disappear. They've now taken root. They occupy certain parts of the bordering areas of Pakistan and Afghanistan. Do you just think that they'll give up their Kalashnikovs and disappear into the mountains?
Look, uh, first of all, let's just make a difference between what's happening in Afghanistan, what's happening in Pakistan. In Afghanistan, there's a history. They have opposed every invader since Alexander downwards. They have opposed everyone. So in Afghanistan, peace will only come, hopefully, if the Americans withdraw from there. And before the withdrawal, they have formed some sort of a government of consensus by involving everyone, getting stakeholders down. Not easy, but it's the only way there'll be some semblance of peace. In Pakistan, it's a different issue. Our problem is that because we joined the US and we are perceived, Pakistan army is perceived as a mercenary army of the US, taking money to fight their war, they've declared jihad on us. So as I said again, take the narrative of jihad away from the militants, mobilize the people of tribal areas. They are the biggest stakeholders in peace. The people of the tribal areas have been devastated by this war. As I said, the reason why they don't take on the militants is because they don't take on a mujahid. So get the narrative of jihad. I know the tribal areas. I'm the only one who's been there. I've written a book on it 20 years ago called The Warrior Race. You give them the responsibility, they'll clear the tribal
Your
areas.
solution to the Taliban problem is that America must go away, the rest will take care of itself.
No,
The
I
other
have
issue,
two solutions. Pakistan, I have one solution for Pakistan, which is to disengage. And solution in Afghanistan is eventually the US leaving.
The other issue, sir, on which you're accused of being ambivalent is when it comes to the other terrorists, the ones that suit Pakistan's larger purpose. For example, on Hafiz Saeed, we've never really come out and seen you say that Pakistan must arrest Hafiz Saeed despite all the evidence that's laid out in Pakistan.
Is Imran Khan going to decide, who should go to jail and who shouldn't go to
But
jail?
shouldn't you condemn the acts of a terrorist?
I have condemned. Everyone in Pakistan has condemned the Mumbai attacks.
And yet
But how
Hafiz Saeed roams free.
So-
There is no will in Pakistan for the man to be arrested.
Look, remember one thing. There's a court, there's a judiciary. Pakistan has a Supreme Court. The people of Pakistan trust our judiciary. Let the judiciary decide who's a terrorist and who's not.
The investigation needs to be done by the government, and that is how the proof gets collected, which leads to ultimately a conviction in court. We're not seeing the will to take on the likes of Hafiz
But
Saeed.
let's get this right now. Is Imran Khan going to say, because India has blamed Hafiz Saeed, then Imran says, because India has said that, put him in jail. Am I supposed to be a judge,
You
jury,
think
and
he's a
executioner?
terrorist? Let me ask you a direct question, sir.
How do I know? Who's a terrorist? Let the courts decide. Listen, remember one thing. Even though the due process of law is slow, it is the only way a government gets moral authority. If we do what the Americans did with Osama bin Laden, which is they executed him, he has become a martyr in some places, and there will be people trying to emulate him. As opposed to Saddam Hussein, who went through the due process of law, no one talks about Saddam Hussein. Remember, Hafiz Saeed or anyone, I don't know whether he's involved in it or not. Let the Pakistan judiciary decide. If you're worried about the government, well, let's wait till our government. Our government intends to do justice. We believe that anyone who was involved in the Mumbai attacks should be punished. But let the judiciary decide who it is.
But isn't there a big difference in your approach when it comes to dealing with the Taliban in Pakistan and when it comes to dealing with the Lashkar-e-Taiba and Hafiz Saeed? Because one terrorist, you talk about law taking its own course, and for the other, you have instant justice all served up and you have a plan about what needs to be done.
They're two different things altogether.
How is that? A terrorist is a terrorist. A man who takes up a gun to try and kill somebody else needs to be dealt with in the same fashion, and that's now the global view.
I'm afraid this is not true.
Why not, sir?
This is not the way you deal with it. IRA was a terrorist group. No one wanted to talk to the IRA in England. It was killing people, bomb attacks, women, children getting killed. What happened in the end? How did peace come to Ireland? Was it through the barrel of a gun? Eventually, they talked. Dialogue. Good Friday Agreement. The same guy who was considered a terrorist, Jerry Adams, is sitting in Parliament today. There's peace there.
But there's a difference. The Lashkar-e-Taiba is being propped up by the ISI to further its own strategic interests vis-a-vis India and Kashmir. Now, there's a big difference between the IRA, which was homegrown for most part, and what the Lashkar-e-Taiba is doing through the ISI.
No, now let me correct you again.
Yes, please.
You talked about the Taliban. I'm talking about comparing what is happening in the IRA and the Taliban, what is happening there. Or the Balochistan Liberation Organization, which is also involved in terrorism.
But I'm very keen on the Lashkar-e-Taiba because that impacts our audience directly.
No, but the first, let's just get this right, because you said, Taliban one side and this,
Yes.
that. So let's just clear about Taliban. Taliban and Balochistan Liberation Organization, which is killing people in Pakistan, once independent of Balochistan. For them, in my opinion, there is only one way: dialogue. I'm not someone who believes in military solutions. Lashkar-e-Taiba, in my opinion, let a Pakistan Supreme Court decide, go through the due process of law, and I'll tell you why. If you do not go to through the due process of law, you will have people emulating martyrs. If Hafiz Saeed is perceived to be put to, or anyone, they are put into prison or they're convicted for something, and the due process of law is not followed, you will have far more terrorists after that.
How does Imran Khan perceive Hafiz Saeed? Do you think of him as an ideologue, a preacher, a man of God, or a terrorist?
Imran Khan does not pass judgment on people. I believe in the rule of law. It should go through a court in Pakistan. Whatever the court decides, Imran Khan will.
4 years have passed since 26/11, and so far the rule of law hasn't
I am
gone
not
too
the
far.
government. I am
How
not
would
the
you
government.
how would you handle the situation?
I am not the government.
How would you handle the
Listen,
situation?
I am not.
What would you do different?
I am not the government of Pakistan.
What would you do different?
No, I would. God willing, when our government comes to power, we will ensure that there is any terrorist whether they do acts of terrorism outside Pakistan or inside Pakistan. We will put them through courts. We will improve our efficiency. We will improve our governance system, our prosecution, and we will ensure that anyone involved in terrorism will be tried and tested through a court of law. Not because someone tells me that, here's a terrorist and so I put him to death or firing squad. That's not the way you deal with these situations.
Because
Remember, due process of law is cumbersome, but remember, in 1945, the Nazis were involved in a war which killed 50 million people. They still got a trial at Nuremberg. They didn't weren't put up instead of a wall and shot. They got a trial, the due process of law. That's what civilized states do.
no, but at least the hope would be that the terror camps that exist in Pakistan, occupied Kashmir, etc., are brought down, because linked to the question of Hafiz Saeed, linked to the question of 2611, is the Indo-Pakistan bilateral series that happens next month. Your contemporary Sunil Gavaskar has come out and said, given how slowly Pakistan has acted against the perpetrators of 2611, India should not be playing cricket with Pakistan. What do you make of this? Because that's a sentiment which a lot of people, your team will be welcomed in India, but there's a large constituency that feels they're not moving against the
Look,
terrorists.
everyone in Pakistan condemned the Mumbai attacks. There should be no such thing as collective punishment of people just because a government is inefficient. It's not just Hafiz Saeed that has not been convicted. Every day there are about 10, 15 people killed in Karachi by terrorist attacks. There are militant groups roaming around in Pakistan. Every day there are people being killed in Balochistan. Every day there are terrorist attacks all over Pakistan. Our government hasn't been able to convict anyone. So don't single out one just because they have not been succeeded in Mumbai attacks, that there's a deliberate thing. We have the most inefficient, corrupt government in our history. So what we hope is that we have Tehreek-e-Insaf coming into power next year, improve the governance systems, and irrespective whether the terrorism is outside Pakistan or inside, we as a government, as an efficient government, will be able to put people behind bars.
Let me quote to you what Sunil Gavaskar says. He says, being a Mumbaikar, I would question Pakistan's visit to India. What is the urgency when there is no cooperation from the other side? When you get away with something, you tend to do it again. What would you tell Sunil Gavaskar?
Sunil does not understand the complexities of the situation.
But he reflects the emotions of the ordinary Indian.
He would, but the ordinary Indian needs to understand that Pakistan has lost 45,000 people dead so far. Hardly anyone who's been involved in these murders has been caught. 45,000 people dead. We've had Mumbais everywhere. So it's not that I think that it's not that people of Pakistan don't want to see those involved in Mumbai to be brought to trial. It's because we unfortunately are lumbered with one of the most inefficient governments in our history, which cannot prevent any terrorism.
So despite the fact that the Pakistan government hasn't moved ahead on 2611, do you still support the Indo-Pakistan bilateral series that takes place next week?
I believe that it's time for India and Pakistan to move on. I believe that it's time for a new relationship between the two countries. I believe that it's time that we started thinking at the bigger picture. And I think that, as I said again, everyone condemned Mumbai. But,
But is condemnation enough? How can there be a new relationship when the
just
perpetrators
now
of
you told me-
2611 roam free? When there are terror camps in Pakistan, occupied Kashmir, which spew
listen,
terror and venom against India every day?
Now let's get on with this. Stop getting stuck on a subject which I've replied over and over again, and I'm giving you the same answers. You keep coming back. Now let's move on. Let's talk about something else. How many times do you want me to reply to the same thing?
Okay, let's talk about cricket. Who do you think will win this series?
Who is going to win the series? I'll have to just look at the Pakistan team a little bit more closely.
You're not following cricket very closely any longer, are you?
Unfortunately, I've been more involved in another ball game, so I haven't really been following cricket. But I just need a little bit more look into the Pakistan team. I wish somehow that Muhammad Amir, that brilliant young player, fast bowler, comes back, having served his sentence, and the only one admitting that he had committed a crime, and as a 19-year-old, I think it'll just make a very exciting series.
Because I interviewed Shoaib Akhtar very recently, and he said since the time Imran Khan left the field, Pakistan hasn't had the one player who can hold the entire team together, whose moral authority ensures that players stay in line, which is why alcoholism, drugs, match fixing, etc., are rampant in the Pakistan team. Shoaib Akhtar went on record to say this.
Uh, Captain does make a big difference, because cricket is the only sport that needs leadership. So, whereas soccer and other sports, hockey, captain is almost irrelevant, coach is everything. Never can a coach replace the role of a captain in cricket because basically captaincy is on the field. That's where you make all the decisions. You can inspire your team beyond their capabilities. So Pakistan has had a problem because we have too many frequent changes of captaincy. The more changes you make, it's very difficult for a captain to settle
Does
down.
it mirror the condition of the country at some level?
Well, sadly, the cricket board mirrors the chaos in Pakistan because it's not an institution. It's based on it's ad hocism. The president of Pakistan appoints the cricket board captain, and once the cricket board captain is appointed, the moment the team comes under pressure, because there's no legitimacy of the president of the cricket board, he then thinks he has to do something because there's all pressure on him because he's not legitimate, he's not elected. So he then does the first thing, change the captain. So we keep having this musical chairs, and we do not have proper leadership at the top, and Pakistan suffers because of that.
One final question I'd like to ask you before I end this interview is about this big debate that's raging in India about Sachin Tendulkar and how long he should go on for, playing in whites, playing in color for the Indian team. Do you think he should just step aside? The Pakistan series would be a very fit venue for him to do so, given the fact that this is really as big as it gets.
But now, listen, I'm stepping into this very thin ice here. Now, talking about Sachin Tendulkar's retirement is a very emotional
It
subject
is.
in India. So I'll let Sachin decide that. But I'm just talking about now, what would Imran Khan have done? I tell you, my biggest fear was, as I reached 34, I thought, I do not want to be left to the mercy of selectors. And so I announced my retirement that I would retire at the end of World Cup when I would have just been 35. And I thought, that's it. I'm at my peak, I'll leave and so on. But, there's a verse in our book, the Holy Quran says, man makes one plan, God makes another, and only one succeeds. So I ended up playing again. But when I came back, my biggest worry was that I should not be humiliated. I should not leave the team when people don't remember me at my when I passed my prime. I wanted to leave at my peak, as Sunil Gavaskar did. By the way, I think he's one of the only cricketers in the subcontinent who left at his peak. So anyway, I kept playing, but then in the end, I had to play for the hospital because we couldn't build a hospital unless I was playing. But it always worried me, and I was very lucky. One of the few players the Almighty was kind that my last game was the World Cup final, which we won. I think Sachin was, if I was a well-wisher of Sachin, that was such a great opportunity. World Cup final in Mumbai, hometown. I mean, what a great way to
But he
leave.
hadn't got his 100th at that time.
Yeah, but it's would that would people think of him any less? I mean, would I think of Sachin any less if he was 9900? I mean, I'm just talking about the occasion. People remember your last match, and what a match!
Do you think, given the nature of his dismissals, the gap between bat and pad, the fact that he got Castle 3 times over, back to back, does that show at some level that his reflexes are slowing down? It's probably time to say goodbye.
Well, I'm afraid age waits for no one. Time waits for no one. It's just natural. I mean, your reflexes have to go down from some people's reflexes go down, some players from 30 onwards, some 35 onwards. But there's no way, after 35 onwards, there's no way your reflexes are not going to go down. I mean, I, one of the most difficult shots is hooking in cricket. And I found that as I passed 35, 36, I found hooking more and more difficult because it's sheer reflexes. So your reflexes, have to go. So in the end, you play with your experience, you play with your technique, but I'm afraid the reflexes, they just have to go to get slower.
So you'd like him to retire?
No, I think he must make up his decision. As I said, it's going to be a national disaster in India the moment he goes because people just don't want to see life without Sachin.
Well, it's bound to happen someday. You've
sometime.
had a very candid conversation with us. We thank you very much for your time,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Imran Khan. Thank you so much.